So this week I will show you what I worked on, which was the teleportation system in the new dungeon area we have. We also incorporated an open area. We can spawn players in these spots. I worked on the teleportation, the spawner, the base pickups, which are the health and the. I worked on health and damage, while Catherine worked on the models that show up, or so the mesh, and Edward did the stamina pickup. I also worked on the raft, which is the game item to get the player to the next room. So I set that up to where the player will not let them go to the next room. I also worked on the what do you call it? The return back to the out of bounds check, so they'll send the person back to the game when they try to leave. That is currently broken, so I have to go back and fix that tomorrow morning. There's another bug in here with the teleporter. I have to add code to the receiver to be able so that the designer can have the option to turn off the receiver if they don't want them, because our teleporters are set to be two ways so that the player can get back and forth. We have to be able to turn off the toggle for the receiver to not send the player back. Currently, we do have it on a. We have it where, or I have it where it's gives the teleporter gives the player immunity when they go through, so that you don't get stuck in that infinite loop of getting sent through the teleporter. Currently, we have that infinite loop by the third room because I forgot to give that spawner an immunity long enough to protect the player, because it was a last minute setup on my by my mistake. So you will see that during this demonstration, and it might cause a error in the game once we get to that loop, so we won't be able to see the last room, which would be the boss room. It doesn't currently have a boss, so we are not missing anything, and that will be a DLC. Okay, so here we go. Let's show this video. New game. We now have a loading screen. Which is pretty sweet. Okay, so we have the crabs spawning. You can collect this key that I just collected. It lets you go through this teleporter. After I go through the teleporter, I'm going to show you how you cannot go through the teleporter without that key. So we just went through, and now we're in a different area, and then we can return back to the starting point. Or also, it sends you to random spots. That's a feature in this. So this is supposed to be the inter-travel teleporter, but also that receiver is set to the same one as the one for the inter-travel, and that's why the bug for this return island is messed up. So you would run back to the first area to show you what else I worked on. Actually, I'll exit now. I'll show you how the teleporter doesn't work without the key, and then I can show you the health and damage now works for adding health and taking away health with the damage. And then I worked on, in conjunction with Edwin, to finish the UI update for health, or for pickups. So I'll show you first. We could take damage, as you just saw. The crabs just push you, but they don't do damage. the fire is actually doing the damage. But I can't get it because they try to protect you from hurting yourself in this game. Okay. So that's the fire. I also worked on the faction code, but I didn't get that to work this week. So I'll be trying to fix that this weekend. So you have to collect this key. So this is the same box we used to teleport earlier. And when you go through it, you don't teleport. You're still right here. You're still right here. We'll try to go through the other teleporter that sends you to the next level. And no teleport. So now we're going to also show you my third feature, which is the health potion. Where did I put it? Okay, so the health potion's right here. Boom, we're going to gain health. Another one, gain health. Stamina drains as you're running. I didn't work on that code, so I'm not going to take credit for that. So I collect the key. Oop. Now the player, when you collect that key, I added code to make the key be added to an available list of channels that the player can listen out for and accept, because our teleportation system is working on a radio system. So this sender has a reference in it that checks for the dungeon space teleport room. The teleport room listens out for this sender, and when the player collects that channel, the sender checks first before when the player collides with it. It checks if it has the amount of keys that it needs to go to this next room. Right now, it just needs the teleport room key. The designer can write in whatever channel they want the player to, or they want this key to be set to, and then edit it according to that and set it to different events. Also with the trigger that we have in here for trigger traps that I made. So you go through this portal now that we have the key, and now you're in the teleport room. So this teleport room is the HUD. We have the open space room. This is a grass boss room, and this is the sand boss room. So right now, if I try to go to the grass boss room, nothing. I can't go. If I try to go to the fire boss room, I go backwards in, because I found a bug that if you went in backwards, sometimes it would let them go in. But then I also found out it wasn't the bug of going backwards. It was because when doing the radio key code, I did not set the code to ignore null pointers first. So when the player had empty slots, when it would count the null pointers as rooms or as keys that were available, and still let the player go through without the recommended keys. So now we grab this next key. We go through here. You have to grab this key. This is open area. We're going to fill it with faction fights. Collect that key. Go through the next room. Now this is where the bug is after this grass room. Sorry, I'll show you the grass room first. This is where, we're going to have spawning of grass fights in here. You collect this ball, which is the key to go to the next room. And this is the bug. So this receiver was set to the wrong spot, and now it is catching the player and sticking them in a loop. I have to make a second return spawner so that this doesn't happen to the teleport room, and fix the bug we talked about earlier. But this is the infinite loop that is going to crash the game. So I won't be able to fix it, or I won't be able to show you the next room, but that's the end of the demo. I'll actually take a screenshot of this. So this week, I worked on this trigger trap code, so it can be manually activated if somebody walks into it, or we can set it to events, and it also registers to the spawners, and it registers to my teleporters to teleport something. And the base player, the only code I worked on, I believe, was the health and teleportation to notify when teleported and where it was going. This way we can cause events to happen when the game mode catches those broadcasts. I started working on the faction code, but it's not working currently. Let's see. Nope, no base player. I wrote the spawner script so that you can spawn. The designer can pick which items they want to spawn out at intervals, in which radius and durations. The spawner can take hits, and it has a health component. The spawner again works on the trigger, so we can set it for events. We can set it to just spawn on begin play if we want to. Or to save power, we can set it to intervals, triggers. There was one more. I'm sorry. We're setting it up to where the game mode talks to the spawner and tells it to start spawning. So again, by trigger, but from the game mode. Boom. I did not from the base agent. Again, I did the damage pickup, or the damage. Yeah, the damage pickup. I worked on the health pickup, not the mesh. I worked on the functions of the code for can it be picked up, and what it does when it is picked up. For the collectible items, again, it gives the name for collectible. That way we can work on showing a display for what items are when the player looks at it. Again, show what channel is granted by the player. Or what channel is granted to the player or character that is gaining this item. So that way we can set, again, we grant a channel to the player so that they can go through the teleporter. And we only grant it when it has the valid keys from before. So if it didn't collect the first key from the first room, you cannot collect the next key to go to the next room. It's a perfect way to stop the player between events and give this game a little bit of life, I think. I did work on the projectiles, but we don't have a gun to actually shoot the projectiles yet, and I did not work on making it into a cannon out of a wall yet. I worked on base pickup. I wrote base pickup. The damage pickup to damage the player. And the particle effect to play the basic particles. The sender and the receiver. Okay, so I can go over this. So we have a teleport point. Okay, this checks recently teleported runes by whoever goes through, so that we can send the player back to where they came from. Check if they have the required channels. We can register the sender again, so the game mode can know who's going where, and we can set events for when that happens. This is where first we're cleaning up the immunity, but we give the player immunity so that they don't keep getting stuck in that info loop I showed you. But the only thing is that's bad for the designers, that they have to remember to turn off that, or to give the player immunity with that setting. So it's something you have to remember, and that's kind of bad structure. Worked on the trap trigger. Again, I said that already. And that is... Oh, no, I am wrong. I worked on the pickup interface, the spawner interface, but there's not much to show there. Yeah, it just shows Kin picked up, and we don't have ammo yet. Spawner interface. So you can get when spawn were triggered. This is a later implementation. And that's all the code I worked on. Thank you.